Inside this tiny glass tank, an entire world was about to be born. A world where every single day was a fight for survival. Some creatures would become hunters, some would become prey, some would disappear without a trace, while others would slowly take over the entire ecosystem. And the craziest part? In the beginning, there was absolutely nothing here. Just an empty glass box. Day 1. I started by adding sand to the bottom of the tank, then lava rocks, creating a strong foundation for this miniature world. At first, it still looked lifeless, but little by little, a new ecosystem was starting to take shape. Then I went outside into my garden, searching for moss-covered stones. These rocks looked ancient, like they had been taken straight out of a rainforest. But what I didn't realize was that I may have brought something else inside with them, and then something moved, a tiny, mysterious creature. I had no idea what it was, but instead of removing it, I decided to leave it alone, because I wanted to see what would happen next. Now it was time to add water. The second the tank filled up, everything turned cloudy. I could barely see anything, so I installed a filter and added beneficial bacteria, the key to keeping this ecosystem stable. And within just one day, the water became crystal clear. Now this world was finally ready for life. Day 3, I added plants, positioned the rocks, and built up the soil using dead leaves and decaying wood. This layer would eventually help plants grow, while also creating hiding places for tiny creatures. At the time, the plants looked tiny, but I had no idea that some of them would completely take over the tank in just a few weeks. Now the enclosure was finally starting to feel like a real jungle. So it was time to introduce the first animals, shrimp and snails, the cleanup crew of this tiny world. They crawled across every surface, eating algae, cleaning debris, and slowly bringing the ecosystem to life. And honestly, this was the moment the tank first felt truly alive. Day 4, underwater. Everything was slowly balancing itself out, but above the surface, the real workers were still missing. Springtails, tiny little creatures almost invisible to the eye. But without them, this entire jungle could rot. A little later, I added isopods too, armored scavengers that fed on dead leaves, keeping the soil healthy and active. Now the ecosystem was truly beginning to function. But later that same day, I heard something outside in my garden. Frogs. I immediately walked toward the pond. But the closer I got, the quieter it became. I couldn't find a single frog. But near the water, I found something else. Frog eggs. Thousands of tiny eggs, each carrying new life inside. So I brought some home. But the second they touched the water, one shrimp rushed over immediately. It carefully touched the eggs, almost as if it was trying to understand what they were. Luckily, the eggs were protected by a thick jelly layer. But would that protection actually be enough? We were about to find out, because once night fell, the real hunters began to wake up. Day 5, one of the snails had died. Its shell rested silently at the bottom of the tank. At first, I removed it, but then I realized something important. That shell could become a source of calcium, something future baby snails would need to survive. So I placed it back into the ecosystem. In this world, even death became part of life. Around the same time, I spotted one of the shrimp carrying eggs, and the frog eggs had changed too. Tiny tadpoles were beginning to hatch. One tiny tadpole attempted its very first swim. It barely made it down before a shrimp suddenly darted toward it. For a moment, I thought it was over, but somehow the tadpole escaped, at least for now. Day 10. Some of the plants didn't survive. Their leaves began melting away, so I replaced them with new plants, a purple plant, and a white orchid. Now the tank looked more beautiful than ever, and then I noticed something incredible. One tiny plant moved when touched. It snapped shut so fast, I could barely believe my eyes. Day 20. By now, life was exploding everywhere inside the tank. When I looked closely into the water, I spotted tiny baby shrimp, then baby snails too. Their population was growing so quickly that I realized something had to be done. Otherwise, this ecosystem would spiral out of control. So I decided to introduce predators. Meet the male and female Dario fish, tiny but extremely aggressive hunters. I started feeding them Daphnia. The male immediately began hunting, but the female was still a little too small. I also added a few tiny raspberries, helping keep the ecosystem balanced. But I had no idea. The real chaos was only beginning. Day 40. The tadpoles were growing incredibly fast. Some had already started developing legs, and that meant only one thing. It was time to introduce another predator, vampire crabs. Small, but absolutely ruthless. These creatures would attack almost anything that moved. One day, an isopod wandered too close to the water's edge, completely unaware that something was waiting below. Step by step, it moved closer, and suddenly, attack. The crab launched out like lightning. Luckily, the isopod escaped, but now it was clear. Nothing inside this jungle was truly safe anymore. Day 60. By now, the plants had spread across nearly the entire tank. One tiny plant had turned into an absolute monster in only 3 days. Its leaves stretched everywhere, but the dense jungle also created perfect hiding places for the frogs. And by now, they weren't tiny anymore. They silently hunted through the moss, waiting for the perfect moment to strike at springtails. Little by little, the frogs had become predators themselves. Day 95. Then came the drought. The water level dropped rapidly. What once looked like a thriving river now looked like a dry shoreline. Even the plants were struggling to survive. But then, everything changed. Dark clouds rolled in. Humidity shifted. Every creature rushed to hide. And then the storm arrived. 5 straight days of relentless rain. When it finally ended, the water level had completely recovered. The fish became more active than ever, and the frogs finally emerged again. But now they had grown far too large for this small ecosystem, and for me, there was only one choice left. I carefully caught every frog and released them back near the pond where their journey first began. They had survived storms, escaped predators, and conquered this miniature jungle. They were true survivors. I also returned the vampire crabs to their original tank, allowing the rest of the ecosystem to finally live in peace. Now everything felt balanced. The fish were thriving, the plants covered the jungle completely, and then the mysterious creature appeared again. To this day, I still have no idea what it actually was, but somehow it survived the chaos too. And honestly, that's what makes this tiny jungle feel so alive.